A pristine waitress uniform costs $30. A Chanel couture dress costs $30,000. But the look on a cheating fiancé's face when he realizes the waitress he just humiliated is the billionaire who owns the entire building? That is absolutely priceless. This is the story of how one woman, hidden in plain sight, unleashed a storm of justice on the man who thought he had it all, proving that the most powerful person in the room is often the one you see the least. The Crimson Quill was a temple of New York excess. It wasn't just a restaurant, it was a stage where the city's elite performed their lives, clad in Tom Ford and Dior, whispering about stock options and Hampton's properties over $500 plates of truffle-dusted risotto. And in this temple, Bella was less than invisible. She was a ghost in a cheap polyester uniform. For 6 weeks, Isabella Montgomery, heiress to the $20 billion Montgomery global hospitality empire, had been Bella. Her hands, which were more accustomed to signing 9-figure contracts and adjusting the sails on her yacht, were now raw, chapped, and perpetually smelled of lemon-scented disinfectant. Her honey-blonde hair was scraped back in a severe regulation bun hidden under a hairnet. Oversized, non-prescription glasses slid down her nose, a deliberate disguise to obscure the striking, familiar features that had graced the pages of Forbes and Vogue. She was here because her empire was bleeding. Not just bleeding, hemorrhaging. The New York branch of her flagship restaurant, the Crimson Quill, was posting losses that made no sense. Inventories were vanishing, payroll was inflated, and the man she had installed to run it all, the man she was supposed to marry in 6 months, Julian Thorne, had dismissed her concerns. "It's just the post-pandemic market, Isabella," he'd said, his voice as smooth as the Patek Philippe watch on his wrist, a watch she had given him. "You wouldn't understand the ground-level details. Leave the operations to me." You wouldn't understand. That condescending phrase echoed in her mind as she balanced a heavy tray. So, she had decided to understand. She had created a fake identity, forged a resume, and gotten hired as a trainee waitress. The humiliation was a daily ritual. She was bossed around by a petty, power-tripping shift manager named Mr. Harrison, who loved to make an example of her. "Bella!" he'd bark, snapping his fingers. "Table 7 needs water. Now, don't walk, scurry. You're paid to be fast, not to think." The other waitstaff were a mixed bag. Most were too exhausted to be kind. But one, Sarah, a single mother with tired eyes and a quick, weary smile, had shared her tips on her first day. "Keep your head down, honey," Sarah had advised, rubbing her own aching feet. "The customers are sharks, and Harrison is the remora that feeds off what they leave behind. Just survive the shift." Bella watched Sarah constantly, saw her discreetly checking her phone, her face pale with worry. Bella knew Sarah's son had cystic fibrosis and the medical bills were drowning her. Bella also knew that Mr. Harrison, despite Sarah being his most efficient waitress, frequently miscalculated her share of the pooled tips. This evening, the restaurant was buzzing. A rumor had spread that a major critic was dining incognito. Harrison was practically vibrating with nervous, toxic energy. "Bella!" A party of 4 just sat at the reserve table. "Table 12. They are VIPs. Do not mess this up," Harrison hissed, adjusting his cheap tie. "And for God's sake, try to smile. You look like your dog just died." Bella nodded, her expression neutral. Table 12 was the best in the house, a plush velvet booth tucked into a private alcove, offering a panoramic view of the Manhattan skyline. She collected the chilled water, the silver bucket with a bottle of Dom Perignon 2012, and 4 menus, balancing the heavy tray on her shoulder. She took a steadying breath. Just another table. Just another performance. She walked through the main dining room, the din of chatter and clinking silver washing over her. She rounded the marble partition, her professional smile already fixing itself onto her face. And then she froze. Her heart didn't just stop. It felt like it was ripped from her chest and thrown onto the floor. Seated in the booth was Julian Thorne, her fiancé, and seated next to him, her hand high on his thigh, a gaudy Cartier love bracelet, stacked next to 3 others, was a stunning, raven-haired woman in a glittering, backless dress. Julian was laughing, a deep, intimate laugh Bella hadn't heard in months. He leaned in and kissed the woman, a long, lingering kiss that was not for a colleague, not for a friend. Bella's tray wavered. The ice in the bucket clinked. The woman pulled back, pouting. "But Juju," she purred, her voice a saccharine weapon. "You promised me you'd dump the Ice Queen before the gala. You told me she was just a business arrangement." Julian stroked her cheek. "Patience, Victoria. The Montgomery merger isn't finalized until I'm married to her. Once her name is on the line, her fortune is my fortune. And then," he smiled, "the Ice Queen can melt for all I care. You'll have that St. Bart's villa, I promise." He hadn't seen Bella. He was so consumed by his mistress, so insulated by his own arrogance, that the waitress standing 3 feet away was just part of the furniture. Bella's blood turned to ice. It wasn't just infidelity. It wasn't just embezzlement. It was a hostile takeover. He was trying to steal her entire company. Her knuckles on the tray were white. The smile on her face was no longer professional. It was a mask, a terrible, calm mask. She took 1 step forward. "Good evening," Bella said, her voice a low, steady whisper. "Welcome to the Crimson Quill. Your champagne." Julian Thorne looked up, his eyes annoyed at the interruption. He waved a dismissive hand. Yes, just open it, and be quick about it." He didn't look at her face, not once. To him, she was a pair of hands in a white apron. The woman he had proposed to, the woman he had shared a bed with for 3 years, was standing right in front of him, and he saw nothing. The woman, Victoria, however, did look. She scanned Bella from head to toe with a look of profound disgust, her eyes lingering on Bella's sensible, non-slip shoes. "Ugh," Victoria whispered to Julian, loud enough for Bella to hear. "They really let anything work here, don't they? Look at her. I'll bet her nails are filthy." Bella calmly placed the tray on the service stand. Her hands, surprisingly, were rock steady. The shock had burned away, leaving a core of glacial fury. She was no longer Bella, the waitress. She was Isabella Montgomery, and this was her house. "Miss Carrington, isn't it?" Bella asked, her voice still polite, but with a new, sharp edge. Victoria looked surprised. "How do you know my name?" "Victoria Carrington," Bella continued, her fingers expertly undoing the wire cage on the champagne. "Aspiring model, though mostly you're known for dating, let's say, financially generous gentlemen. I believe your last associate was Baron von Hesse, right before his wife filed for divorce, and he was audited for fraud. You have expensive taste." Victoria's painted-on smile faltered. "How dare you?" Julian finally snapped to attention. "What is the meaning of this? Get your manager." "In a moment," Bella said. The pop of the champagne cork was unusually loud in the suddenly tense air. She poured a small amount into Julian's glass for him to taste. Julian, flustered and angry, waved it away. "Just pour it, you insolent girl." "Of course," Bella said. She filled Victoria's flute first, then Julian's. "Now, about my St. Bart's villa," Victoria purred, recovering her composure and turning back to Julian, pointedly ignoring Bella. "I want one with a private beach, and I saw the most divine Rolls-Royce Cullinan in white. I'll need that, too." Whatever you want, my love, Julian said, his eyes now fixed on Victoria's cleavage. He raised his glass for a toast. To us, and to the end of the Montgomery Ice Age. Victoria laughed, a high-pitched grating sound. To us, and to your boring, frigid fiancé. May she enjoy her lonely boardroom. Bella stood holding the now empty bottle. Will there be anything else, Mr. Thorne? The use of his name made Julian pause. He looked at her closely for the first time. The cheap, oversized glasses, the greasy-looking hair. No, it couldn't be. He squinted. Do I know you? He asked, a flicker of uncertainty. I'm just the help, sir, Bella replied. The help you've been overlooking for a very long time. Before Julian could process this, Mr. Harrison scurried over, his face a mask of panic. Is there a problem here, Mr. Thorne? This girl isn't bothering you, is she? She's an idiot, Victoria snapped. And this champagne is warm. Take it back. Get us a new one, and get her out of my sight. Bella held the bottle. Ma'am, the bottle came directly from the chiller. I opened it at your table. It cannot possibly be warm. Victoria's eyes narrowed. She hated being contradicted. Are you calling me a liar? You stupid, clumsy waitress. Harrison, Julian commanded, his authority returning. This is unacceptable. This is the flagship restaurant. I am the CEO of this group, and this is the service I get. This is why our numbers are down. Incompetence. Yes, Mr. Thorne, right away, sir. Harrison turned on Bella, his face purple. Bella, you are in so much trouble. Go to the kitchen. Go. You're lucky if I don't fire you on the spot. Bella didn't move. She set the empty champagne bottle down on the table with a quiet, definitive clink. No, Mr. Harrison, I won't be going to the kitchen, Bella said. Her voice was different now. All pretense of the timid waitress was gone. It was a voice that commanded boardrooms, a voice that silenced arguments. It was the voice of Isabella Montgomery. Julian's blood ran cold. His head snapped up. He knew that voice. He stared, really stared, past the glasses, past the hairnet. He saw her. His face, which had been flushed with wine and arrogance, turned the color of chalk. Isabella? He whispered, his glass trembling in his hand. Victoria looked at him, confused. What? Who is Isabella? Julian, what's wrong with you? Why are you looking at her like that? Oh, he's just now recognizing me, Isabella said, a chilling smile touching her lips. It's funny, isn't it? He's been planning to steal my company, but he didn't even recognize my face. Your company, Victoria scoffed, but a seed of panic was in her eyes. Julian, what is this nonsense? Tell this thing to leave. Victoria, Julian choked out, his voice strangled. Be quiet. Isabella slowly began to unbutton the cuffs of her uniform. You were right about one thing, Julian. The service here is unacceptable. But the incompetence isn't with the waitstaff. It's in the CEO's office. At that exact moment, a different waiter, a young man named Leo, was walking past. He was carrying a massive silver tray laden with 4 sizzling tomahawk steaks and sides for a party of businessmen nearby. He was new, and Harrison's yelling had made him nervous. Victoria, seeing her perfect evening and her Rolls-Royce evaporating, flew into a rage. She wasn't angry at Julian. She was furious at the waitress who had ruined it. You, she shrieked at Isabella. You did this. You ruined everything. She picked up her full champagne flute and threw the contents at Isabella's face. Isabella didn't flinch, but she did sidestep. The champagne missed her and splashed across the floor. As Victoria lunged, she slipped on the champagne. She stumbled, grasping for purchase, and slammed directly into the waiter Leo and his heavy tray. The sound was catastrophic. It was a symphony of destruction. The tray flipped. Sizzling hot steaks, cast-iron skillets of creamed spinach, and ramekins of béarnaise sauce went airborne. The entire mess crashed down onto the floor, splattering grease and dark sauce all over the pristine white marble. But not all of it hit the floor. One of the heavy, hot skillets flew sideways, striking Victoria's table. It upended Julian's full glass of red wine, a 400-a-bottle Chateau Margaux, which arched through the air in a perfect, bloody red parabola. It landed directly on Victoria Carrington, her white Chanel dress, her pristine Hermes Birkin bag on the seat beside her, her perfectly styled hair. All of it was instantaneously drenched in a sticky, deep red stain, mingled with hot beef grease and béarnaise. The entire restaurant, all 200 patrons, went dead silent. Victoria looked down at herself. A piece of creamed spinach was slowly sliding off her designer bag. She looked at Julian. She looked at Isabella. Then she let out a scream that could have shattered glass. Victoria's shriek echoed off the high, vaulted ceilings. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated rage. "My dress! My bag! This is a Birkin! Do you know what you've done?" she screeched, her voice cracking. She wasn't looking at the waiter she had stumbled into. Her eyes, wild and murderous, were fixed on Isabella. You clumsy, filthy bitch! You did this on purpose." Mr. Harrison, seeing his career flash before his eyes, rushed forward. "Mr. Thorne! Miss Carrington! I am so sorry. This is... Bella, this is your fault. You distracted her. You're fired. You're fired." He grabbed Isabella's arm, his fingers digging into her bicep, and tried to physically drag her away. "You will pay for this. We will garnish your wages. You will be blacklisted from every restaurant in this city." Julian, for his part, was frozen. He was a statue of pure, abject terror. He was staring at Isabella, his mouth opening and closing, but no sound coming out. The blood had drained from his face, leaving a pasty, grey mask. He knew. It was all over. Isabella stood perfectly still in the center of the chaos. The ruined table, the screaming mistress, the sputtering manager, the silent, staring diners. She looked down at Harrison's hand on her arm, his grubby fingernails digging into her skin. Then she moved. It wasn't a fast movement. It was deliberate. She reached up with her free hand, not to push him away, but to calmly, methodically, pull the cheap hairnet from her head. Her honey-blonde hair, now free, cascaded down over her shoulders, instantly transforming her. Next, she plucked the oversized fake glasses from her face and dropped them to the floor. Without the disguise, her features were sharp, aristocratic, and utterly unmistakable. The high cheekbones, the clear ice-blue eyes, the determined set of her jaw. She was Isabella Montgomery, and everyone in that room who read a financial paper or a society column knew exactly who she was. A wave of whispers rippled through the restaurant. "Is that... My God, it's Montgomery. What is she doing in a waitress uniform?" Mr. Harrison's hand fell from her arm as if he'd been electrocuted. He stumbled back, his eyes wide with a dawning, sickening horror. Miss Montgomery, I didn't..." Isabella ignored him. She ignored Victoria, who had finally stopped screaming and was now staring, confused. Her eyes were locked on one person. "Julian," she said. Her voice was no longer a whisper. It was a blade. It cut through the entire restaurant. Julian flinched as if she had struck him. "Isabella, listen to me. This isn't... I can explain. This is just a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Isabella took a step toward him. "You, my fiancé, are here with her." She flicked a dismissive hand toward Victoria. discussing how you're going to handle me after you merge my fortune with yours. You've been siphoning money from my company to buy her Rolls Royces and villas. And you call it a misunderstanding? Victoria finally understood. Her face, a mask of red wine and spinach, went from rage to a calculating, desperate panic. "Wait, your company?" she said to Isabella, then spun on Julian. "What does she mean, her company? Julian, you told me you were the CEO. You told me you owned it. You told me she was just some cold, ugly figurehead you had to tolerate." "Shut up, Victoria. Just shut up," Julian hissed, his eyes darting around at the sea of cell phones that were now raised, recording every second. "Oh no, Julian, don't tell her to shut up," Isabella said, a cruel, cold smile playing on her lips. "I want to hear more. Tell me, Victoria, what else did he promise you? Did he promise you my penthouse on Park Avenue? My family's estate in the Hamptons? Did he promise you my name?" He did," Victoria whispered, the fight draining out of her. She was a parasite who had just realized her host was about to be incinerated. "Julian Thorne," Isabella said, her voice dropping. "You have been CEO of my hospitality group for 2 years. In that time, I have watched my flagship restaurants, my father's legacy, begin to rot from the inside out. I couldn't understand why. I couldn't find the source of the infection. So I decided to come and find it myself." She gestured to her stained, cheap uniform, "and I found it. It's you." She reached into the pocket of her apron and pulled out 2 things. The first was a worn, simple leather cord. It had been hidden under her uniform. She pulled it over her head. Dangling from it was not a simple wedding band, but a heavy, gold signet ring, bearing the unmistakable rampant lion of the Montgomery family crest. She slid it onto her finger. It looked like a crown. The second item she pulled from her pocket was her phone. It wasn't the burner phone she'd used as Bella. It was her real one, a sleek, custom device. She dialed a single number. "David," she said, her voice all business. "Yes, it's me. I'm at the Crimson Quill. I need you to enact a code black protocol. Freeze all corporate accounts tied to Julian Thorne, all of them. Seize his laptops, his hard drives, and his office. Have the auditors I hired meet you there, and send the regional security team to my location. Now. Yes. Both of them." She hung up. Julian lunged forward, grabbing her hands. His arrogance was gone, replaced by a desperate, pathetic pleading. "Isabella, please, please don't do this. It was a mistake. She seduced me. She's a gold digger. She means nothing. I love you, Isabella. I've always loved you. We can fix this." Isabella looked at his hands holding hers. She looked at his terrified, pleading face. For a single second, a flicker of the woman who had loved him surfaced, and then she remembered his words. "The Ice Queen can melt for all I care." Her face hardened. "Get your hands off me, Julian. No, not until you listen to me. It was the stress, the pressure of the job. It was it stress, Julian?" Isabella interrupted, her voice lethally quiet. "That made you create a shell corporation, Thorne Consulting, and approve over $3 million in consulting fees to it from our capital expenditure budget. Fees that, my forensic accountant discovered, were paid directly to a private account in the Cayman Islands, an account that paid for her Cartier bracelets, and her apartment, and your new Patek Philippe." Julian's defense died in his throat. The color drained from his face again. He hadn't just been caught cheating. He'd been caught in a felony. You audited me?" he whispered. "I've been auditing you for 3 months," Isabella stated. "I just needed to see why. I thought it was just greed. I never imagined it was this pathetic. You didn't just betray me as my fiancé, Julian. You stole from me. You stole from my family. You stole from my employees." She ripped her hands from his grasp. At that moment, the front doors of the restaurant burst open. Not restaurant security. 6 large, unsmiling men in dark, perfectly tailored suits entered. They moved with a quiet, terrifying efficiency. Their leader, a man with a scar on his jaw and an earpiece, was David. He spotted Isabella immediately. "Miss Montgomery," he said, his voice a low rumble. "The premises are secure." "David," Isabella said, not taking her eyes off Julian. "Thank you for coming. Mr. Thorne here is being terminated, for cause. Please escort him from my building, and relieve him of his company property, the watch, the keys to the company Rolls-Royce, and his access cards." 2 of the security men moved to flank Julian. "No!" Julian yelled, backing away. "You can't do this! I am the CEO!" "You," Isabella said, "are a common thief, and you are trespassing." The security men didn't hesitate. They each took one of Julian's arms in a grip that was immovable. Julian struggled, his face contorted in a mask of rage and fear. "Isabella, you'll regret this. You'll never find anyone better than me. You need me." "Remove him," she ordered. As they dragged him toward the door, Julian's eyes fell on Victoria, who was trying to blend into the velvet booth, her wine-stained dress making her look like the victim of a mob hit. "You!" Julian roared at her. "This is your fault. You and your endless wanting. You ruined me." Victoria, seeing her last life raft sinking, leapt to her feet. "Me? You lied to me. You told me you were the king. You're nothing but a clerk." She lunged at him, her nails bared, and tried to scratch his face. One of David's men intercepted her arm easily. "Ma'am," David said, his voice bored, "you need to leave as well." "I'm not going anywhere. I am a victim here," Victoria shrieked. "My dress is ruined. My bag. This restaurant is going to pay me." Isabella laughed, a real sharp, humorless laugh. "Pay you? For what? For assaulting my employee?" She pointed to Leo, the waiter, who was standing wide-eyed by the service station. "For causing this entire scene? No, I think not. David, please inform Miss Carrington that if she is not out of my restaurant in 30 seconds, I will be having her arrested for assault, property damage, and trespassing." Victoria's mouth snapped shut. All the fight went out of her. She looked at Julian, being dragged out the door. She looked at Isabella, standing tall and powerful in her stained waitress uniform, the signet ring shining on her hand. Defeated, she grabbed her ruined Birkin, her face a mask of humiliation, and stormed out, her high heels clicking in the silent room. The restaurant was quiet. Only Julian's faint, fading yells of, "You can't do this to me," could be heard from the street before the heavy doors swung shut. The silence in the Crimson Quill was absolute. 200 pairs of eyes were fixed on Isabella, who stood alone in the wreckage. The city's most powerful bankers, lawyers, and socialites had just witnessed the most dramatic corporate and romantic execution in recent memory. Isabella took a deep breath, smoothing the front of her apron. The mask of fury fell away, replaced by the calm, authoritative demeanor of a true leader. She was no longer a woman scorned. She was a CEO taking back control. She turned first to the staff, who were huddled by the service station, their faces a mixture of terror and awe. Her eyes found Mr. Harrison. He was attempting to make himself small, trying to melt into the mahogany paneling. "Mr. Harrison," she called out. He flinched. Yes, Miss Montgomery. I had no idea. If I had known, I would have... You would have what? Isabella asked, walking toward him. You would have kissed my feet instead of his? You would have let me break the rules while you terrorized the other staff? No, I mean, I run a tight ship. You run a ship of fear, Isabella cut him off. For 6 weeks, I have watched you. I watched you steal from the tip pool, taking Sarah's share to cover your managerial expenses. I watched you bully Leo, our new waiter, to the point of tears. I watched you serve Dom Perignon that was 2 days old to less important customers. You are a petty tyrant. And you are a thief. Harrison's face went white. That's a lie. Is it? Isabella turned to the huddled staff. Who here has had their tips miscalculated by Mr. Harrison? Slowly, one by one, nearly every hand went up. Sarah's hand went up first, her eyes burning with a newfound, shaky courage. And who, Isabella continued, has been forced to cover his mistakes, to pay for a customer who dined and dashed from his section, to use expired ingredients because he refused to reorder? More hands. The entire kitchen staff, who had emerged from the back, were nodding. Mr. Harrison, Isabella said, her voice final. You are terminated, effective immediately. David's team will escort you to your office to clean out your desk. You will be monitored. If you take so much as a paperclip, I will add it to the embezzlement charges I intend to file against you. Harrison crumpled. Please, Ms. Montgomery, I have a family. So does Sarah, Isabella replied, her voice cold as steel. And you were stealing from her child. Get him out! 2 security men wordlessly escorted the sobbing, defeated manager away. Now, Isabella turned to the rest of the staff. They looked at her, terrified, as if she were a queen about to order more executions. Her expression softened. My name is Isabella Montgomery. This restaurant, this entire company, was built by my father. I have let it be mismanaged. That stops tonight. She walked over to Sarah, who was trembling. Sarah. Sarah flinched. Yes, ma'am. Miss Montgomery. For 6 weeks you have been the only person in this building to show me, Bella, any kindness. You are efficient, you are honest, and you are a leader. The staff respects you. Mr. Harrison feared you, which is why he punished you. Isabella unfastened her own dirty, stained apron and handed it to Sarah. Sarah looked at it, confused. I am promoting you to General Manager of the Crimson Quill, effective right now, Isabella announced. Sarah's jaw dropped. What? Me? But I don't know how to. You know how to be decent, Isabella said firmly. You know how to count. You know what good service looks like. You will report directly to me. I will train you myself. Your starting salary is triple what you are making now, with full health benefits for you and your son, effective immediately. Sarah burst into tears, not of sadness, but of overwhelming, choking relief. She could only nod, clutching the apron to her chest. Leo, Isabella called out. The young waiter she'd pointed to earlier looked up, terrified. You did nothing wrong. The customer assaulted you. The restaurant will pay for your dry cleaning, and you will receive a bonus for your professionalism. She then turned to the entire staff. Everyone on shift tonight, front of house and back of house, will receive a $1,000 bonus. As of tomorrow, we are auditing the tip pool. All tips will be transparent and distributed daily. We are reviewing all supplier contracts. We will have the best ingredients, and you will be proud to work here. My father's legacy will not be one of rot. It will be one of excellence. A hesitant, then enthusiastic round of applause broke out from the staff. Finally, Isabella turned to the last group, her stunned, silent, and very wealthy clientele. She walked to the center of the room. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, her voice projecting to every corner. "My apologies for the dinner and a show. It was not on the menu." A few nervous chuckles. "My name is Isabella Montgomery, and I am the owner of this establishment. You have just witnessed a rather aggressive corporate restructuring. I can assure you, the rot has been cut out. The Crimson Quill has always been synonymous with excellence. Tonight it fell short. That will not happen again." She scanned the room, her eyes landing on the table of businessmen whose steaks were now on the floor. "Gentlemen, your meal will be refired immediately, and to everyone here, your meals, your wine, everything tonight is, of course, on the house." A wave of relieved, then excited murmurs. "Please," Isabella continued, "enjoy your evening, and welcome to the new Crimson Quill." She gave a small, dignified nod. She then walked past the maitre d's stand, through the lobby, and out the massive front doors into the cool Manhattan night. David was waiting for her, holding the door of a sleek, black Bentley Mulsanne, her real car. "Where to, Miss Montgomery?" he asked. Isabella pulled the last of her Bella disguise, the elastic band, from her hair, letting it fall freely. She looked back at the glowing sign of the restaurant. Her restaurant. "To the office, David," she said, sliding into the plush leather seat. Julian was just the head of the snake. "I have an entire company to clean." The elevator to the 80th floor penthouse office of Montgomery Global Hospitality moved with a silent, hydraulic hum. It was 11:15 p.m., and the building was a ghost town. But Isabella was more awake than she had been in years. The adrenaline of the confrontation had been replaced by a cold, sharp focus. David rode up with her. "The auditors are assembled in the main boardroom, Miss Montgomery. They have secured Thorne's servers. His hard drive is already being imaged. We've also secured his apartment. The NYPD Economic Crimes Unit has been briefed." "Good," Isabella said. "Did they find anything?" His girlfriend, Ms. Carrington, was there. She was uncooperative, until we informed her that the lease was in the company's name and she had 10 minutes to vacate. She was more cooperative after that. "And Julian? He's in the custody of our security team in the downstairs holding room. He is demanding a lawyer." "He'll get one," Isabella said flatly. "A court-appointed one, after he's arrested." The doors opened onto a space of breathtaking luxury. Dark marble floors, 20-foot glass walls overlooking Central Park, and a collection of Rothko and Pollock paintings that served as her father's lobby art. The main boardroom was ablaze with light. 4 people, the forensic accountants she had secretly hired weeks ago, were hunched over laptops, their faces illuminated by glowing spreadsheets. "Sarah Ann," Isabella said, addressing the team leader, "what have we found now that we have full access?" Sarah Ann, a woman with piercing eyes and a reputation for finding money that didn't want to be found, looked up. "Ms. Montgomery, it's worse than we thought. Much worse." She turned her monitor around. Thorne wasn't just skimming. He was building his own parallel empire. He wasn't just funding a mistress. He was funding a competitor. Isabella felt a chill. "Explain." "Thorne Consulting was just the tip," Sarah Ann said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "He used that shell to funnel the $3 million, but then he used that $3 million as seed capital to create another entity. Apex Hospitality Group. It's registered in Delaware. Anonymous." "He was building his own company," Isabella breathed, the betrayal finding a new, deeper level. "Exactly. He's been systematically sabotaging you. The bad inventory at the Crimson Quill? He had your managers sell your prime ingredients, your Kobe beef, your Alba truffles, out the back door for cash, and then bought cheap, substandard replacements, pocketing the difference. That's why your food costs were insane and your reviews were plummeting. He was trying to devalue the brand, Isabella realized. Devalue it, and then buy it, Sarah Ann confirmed. We found this in his drafts folder. A proposal. Once he was married to you and had control of your assets, he was going to declare the New York and Chicago restaurants non-viable assets. He would have the board, which he was stacking with his own people, vote to sell them to Apex Hospitality Group for pennies on the dollar. He wasn't just stealing from her. He was planning to steal her entire legacy, using her own name and money. He was going to leave me with nothing, Isabella said, the words tasting like ash. He was going to leave you holding the bag for the failing, gutted assets, while he and Ms. Carrington ran the new company, Sarah Ann said. He's been replacing your loyal staff with his own appointments for a year. Harrison was one of his. The arrogance, Isabella whispered, to do it all right under my nose, to propose to me, to sleep in my bed, all while planning to destroy me. He saw you as old money, Sarah Ann said, scrolling. He has an entire text thread with Victoria, mocking you, calling you the museum piece. He thought you were stupid. He thought you were just a figurehead, too delicate to ever look at the actual books. A cold, hard laugh escaped Isabella's lips. He made the mistake my father's rivals always made. He mistook class for weakness. He forgot that my grandfather was a butcher who built this empire with his bare hands. I know how to handle a knife. She turned to David. Get Julian Thorne. Bring him up here, now. Isabella, David said, his voice gentle. He had been her father's head of security and had known her since she was a child. Are you sure? The police will be here in an hour. I am sure, she said, her eyes like chips of ice. He doesn't get to go to jail thinking he's a criminal mastermind. He needs to go to jail knowing he's a fool who was outsmarted by a waitress. The boardroom doors opened. Julian Thorne was shoved inside, stumbling. He was no longer the slick, arrogant CEO. His Tom Ford suit was rumpled, his face was pale and sweaty, and his eyes were wide with animal panic. His Patek Philippe was gone, leaving a pale, naked circle on his wrist. He saw Isabella standing at the head of the long, glass table, silhouetted against the glittering skyline of her city. Isabella, he tried again, the pathetic plea returning. This is insane. You can't just kidnap me. I have rights. You have the right to remain silent, Isabella said, her voice echoing in the vast room. But I think you'll want to hear this. Please, Sarah Ann, show Mr. Thorne his retirement plan. The accountant turned the massive 80-inch monitor on the wall. It lit up with a complex diagram of shell corporations, offshore accounts, and wire transfers. Julian's face went from pale to ghostly. Apex Hospitality, Isabella said, walking slowly toward him. A bold name. Your new company. Built with my money. Your plan was impressive, I'll admit. Devalue my assets. Marry me to gain control of my stock. Sell my father's legacy to yourself for nothing. And then, what? Divorce me? Have me committed? What was the end game, Julian? Julian stared at the screen, defeated. The evidence was absolute. You were never supposed to see that. You were never supposed to be this stupid, Isabella countered, slamming her hand on the table. Did you really think I wouldn't notice $3 million? Did you think I was just a museum piece who only cared about galas and charities? Julian flinched, hearing his own words thrown back at him. You underestimated me, she said, leaning in close, her voice a low, venomous hiss. You saw a woman. You saw an heiress. You didn't see the woman who's been reading profit and loss statements since she was 12. You didn't see the woman who built the digital integration platform you've been using to steal from her. She picked up a single sheet of paper. This is the wire transfer for $250,000 for Victoria's Rolls-Royce Cullinan. You coded it as a kitchen renovation for the Chicago restaurant. But the Chicago restaurant's kitchen was renovated 18 months ago, by me. She threw the paper at him. It struck his chest and fluttered to the floor. You, she said, are a terrible, terrible criminal. You're not a wolf, Julian. You're just a greedy, common little rat, and you got caught in my trap. Julian finally broke. The arrogance, the pleading, it all vanished, replaced by a hollow, pathetic emptiness. I hated you, he whispered, his voice trembling. Isabella stopped. What? I hated you, he said, louder, his eyes filling with tears of self-pity. I hated that it was always your name on the building, your father's legacy, your money. I did all the work. I doubled the profits in the European sector. I landed the Dubai deal. But at the end of the day, I was just Mr. Montgomery, the boy-toy CEO. You looked at me like I was just another one of your assets. I looked at you, Isabella said, like you were my partner. I trusted you, I loved you, and you took that love and you used it as a weapon against me. You didn't do this because you felt unseen, Julian. You did this because you are weak. You couldn't build your own empire, so you had to steal mine. She turned her back on him. David, he's all yours. Get him out of my sight. The police are on their way. Isabella, wait, he cried, as David took his arm. Please, I'm sorry, I really am. I'm sorry. Isabella paused at the door. She looked back at the broken man. I'm sure you are, Julian. You're sorry you got caught. She walked out of the boardroom without a backward glance. The last thing Julian Thorne saw of his old life was the click of the lock as the door sealed him in with his crimes. Isabella did not go home. The penthouse on Park Avenue, with its silent, sprawling rooms and 20-foot windows, was no longer a sanctuary. It was a museum of a life that had been a lie, a gilded cage she had shared with a predator. The thought of sleeping in the bed she had shared with Julian, of walking the halls where they had planned a future, was repulsive. The place was tainted, not with his presence, but with his absence, the cold, calculated void where a person should have been. So she had David drop her off 5 blocks away. The 4:10 a.m. air was cool and sharp, carrying the scent of the city's overnight rinse, damp pavement, and the distant, yeasty smell of a bakery starting its day. The adrenaline that had carried her through the office confrontation had faded, leaving behind a profound, bone-deep exhaustion. And beneath that, a cold, hollow ache. The victory felt metallic. She had won. She had saved her company. She had exposed the traitor. She had stared into the eyes of the man who had planned to ruin her, and she had not flinched. But she had lost 3 years. She had lost the naive part of herself that could trust so completely. She had loved a ghost, a carefully constructed character, and the real Julian Thorne, the petty, greedy man being processed in a downtown holding cell, was a stranger she had somehow been engaged to. She walked the dark streets, a solitary, elegant figure in a silk blouse and trousers, a stark contrast to the city's early risers, the rumbling delivery trucks, the sanitation workers, the first bundled-up dog walkers. She was, once again, invisible. But this time, it was by choice. Her feet, on autopilot, carried her back to the only place that felt real, the crimson quill. The street was silent, the massive bronze doors dark. She used her master key, the click of the heavy bolt sliding back, echoing in the pre-dawn stillness. The restaurant was not as she had left it. The chaos was gone. The staff, in a show of professionalism that touched her deeply, had cleaned everything. The floors were mopped, the tables were reset with crisp white linen, the silver was polished, and the glasses at the bar gleamed, all waiting for a new day. It smelled of wax and lemon oil. She walked through the main dining room, her heels a quiet thud on the plush carpet. She stood in the center of the room, in the exact spot where Victoria had shrieked, where the wine had splattered, where Bella had been born and had died in the same night. The emptiness of the room mirrored the hollowness inside her. She had won the war, but the battlefield had to be rebuilt. She had cut out the rot, but now came the hard part. The rebuilding, and she felt, for the first time, utterly alone. A small sound broke the silence, a soft clink of ceramic on steel, coming from the kitchen. Her senses, honed by 6 weeks of being Bella, went on high alert. A thief? A vagrant? She moved silently, pushing open the double-swinging doors. The kitchen was dark, save for the small pool of light from the desk lamp in the corner office. And there, sitting at the massive stainless steel prep table, was Sarah. She wasn't in a manager's suit. She was in jeans and a faded university hoodie, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked exhausted, her eyes red-rimmed, but she was surrounded by a stack of printed manifests and a legal pad, a half-empty mug of coffee steaming beside her. She looked up as Isabella entered, and her entire body jerked in fright, spilling a bit of coffee. "Miss Montgomery, oh my God! I'm so sorry, Ma'am. I didn't mean... I'll go." She started to scramble to her feet, wiping at the spill with a napkin. "Sarah," Isabella said, her voice softer than she intended. "It's 4:30 in the morning. What are you doing here?" I, Sarah stammered, her face flushing with embarrassment. "I couldn't sleep. My son, Leo. He was so happy. I told him about the promotion, the insurance, and he smiled. Her voice cracked, and she looked down, furious with herself for showing weakness. "I couldn't sleep. I was afraid I'd wake up and it would all be a dream, that Mr. Harrison would be back, and I'd be... Bella..." She winced, realizing her mistake. Not you, Mom. I mean..." A small, genuine smile touched Isabella's lips, the first one that night. "It's okay, Sarah, I know what you mean. Bella was pretty miserable." Isabella walked over, not to the desk, but to the industrial coffee machine, grabbing a clean mug from the rack. "And Mr. Harrison is not coming back, ever. I can promise you that." She poured herself a cup of the strong, kitchen-grade coffee and sat down in the hard, metal chair opposite Sarah at the prep table. Sarah stared at her. The billionaire owner, in clothes that likely cost more than her car, was sitting at the prep table, drinking black coffee from a chipped mug. "You don't have to call me Ms. Montgomery, Sarah," Isabella said, taking a sip, "especially not at 4:30 a.m. Isabella is fine." I can't, Mom," Sarah said, her voice barely a whisper. Isabella nodded, a flicker of amusement in her eyes. "Boss will do then. Show me what you found." Sarah's fear-driven paralysis snapped. It was replaced by the focused, nervous energy of someone who knew she was right. I think I found it, Mum." "Boss." She pushed a binder forward. "You said you'd train me, but I know this kitchen. I know the deliveries. I wanted to be ready. Mr. Harrison, he wasn't just skimming tips. He was stealing big." She pointed to a line item. "See? Linen services. We're billed for 400-count fret tablecloths, daily service. But the delivery driver, a friend of Harrison's, has been bringing in 200-count polyester blends. We've been serving on cheap fabric for a year. Harrison was splitting the price difference with the supplier. She turned a page, her finger landing on another report. And here, liquor waste. Harrison reported that we spilled, or broke, 12 bottles of Macallan 25 last month. 12. Boss, we only ordered 10. He was selling them out the back door to a private collector and logging it as waste. It's everywhere, the produce, the fish, the Kobe beef you found. That was just the start. Isabella listened, a new feeling replacing the hollow ache. It was a sharp, cold anger, but it was productive. This wasn't the fog of emotional betrayal. This was a spreadsheet of theft. This was a problem she could fix. And Sarah wasn't just loyal. She was smart. She had the ground-level intelligence that no auditor, not even Sarah Ann, could have found. You did this in 3 hours? Isabella asked, impressed. I've suspected for 6 months, Sarah admitted quietly. But I couldn't say anything. Harrison. He knew about my son. He'd remind me how hard it is to get a job with good insurance. She stopped. He's gone. That's all that matters. Yes, he is, Isabella said. And you, Sarah, are a godsend. She looked at the legal pad. What else? Sarah's confidence, shaky at first, began to solidify. The staff, the kitchen, the sous chef, Miguel. He's a genius. Harrison hated him because he's better. Miguel has been designing dishes in a private notebook for 2 years. He's the one who should be writing our new menu, not some consultant Julian hired. Then his notebook will be our first agenda item at the 10 a.m. all-staff meeting, Isabella said, not missing a beat. Arrange it. Yes, boss. As they talked, the cold, sterile blue of the kitchen's pre-dawn light began to change. A single, thin ray of gold sunlight broke through the high, grimy kitchen window, cutting across the stainless steel table. The sun was rising. It illuminated the 2 women, the heiress in her silk blouse and the new manager in her hoodie, their heads bent together over a stack of manifests, 2 warriors planning their next campaign. Isabella looked at the sunlight, then at Sarah's determined, exhausted, and fiercely intelligent face. The hollow ache in her chest was gone. It was filled, not with love or trust, but with something stronger. Purpose. Julian's betrayal was about tearing down. This was about building. She had lost a fiancé, a parasitic fake, but she had found her company. Not the abstract Montgomery Global on a stock ticker, but the real, tangible, human foundation of it. She had found her team. Isabella, the museum piece, was done being a figurehead. She was done being an heiress. She was the boss, and the dawn was breaking. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but in this case, it was served with a side of justice, and a massive bill for a ruined Birkin bag. Isabella didn't just expose a cheater. She took back her empire, exposed a criminal, and lifted up the people who truly deserved it. The story of Julian and Victoria ended with lawyers and consequences, but the story of Isabella and Sarah? That was just the beginning. What did you think of Isabella's takedown? Was it too harsh, or did Julian get exactly what he deserved? Let me know in the comments below. And if you love stories about justice, empowerment, and billionaires in disguise, make sure to smash that like button, share this video with someone who needs a good story, and subscribe for more. We read every comment, and your support means the world. Click that bell so you never miss what happens next.